And welcome into another season of the Bulldog Blitz. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined in by the head coach of the Anniston Bulldogs, Eddie Bullock. Each week, we'll break down Anniston's game from the previous week, and then we'll also preview the upcoming game this week. We'll do the very same here today. But first off, Coach, we start another season, and each year we like to start off with how the team looked in the offseason, how they looked in the spring. They got themselves ready to play this season, the dynamics of the team. Tell us about this team overall as you got ready for them. We got them ready for the 2017 campaign.
Well, first of all, we got the quarterback back. Of course, he had an injury last year, and he came back 100%. And we got him a little workout in during the spring game, and I was just elated to have him back. And then, of course, we had probably one of the best attendance during the summer workouts that we've had since I've been there in the last 10 to 12 years. So, just basic preparation and just changing the mindset of the kids that we have. And I think we had a great off season, a great summer, and just geared up and ready to play.
Absolutely. Savion Bethune is his name. He had a promising year last year before he went down. And then it seemed like maybe there was a little bit of deflation because you had to move a lot of different players and a lot of different parts. You were a really young squad last year, then the injury bug hit early in the season as well. Did it seem like this year the players maybe had a little bit more motivation knowing that they had that captain, so to speak, back there?
Well, I believe they did. And, he was a little bit disappointed because, he lost a complete year of development. And it's just hard getting that chemistry back. And, he was excited. The kids were excited. And, we just got some posters around the locker room that just say, expect to win. And, the kids are very excited about, starting a new year off.
Absolutely. You started your season off at Sylacauga. We talk about this every year, how you love scheduling tough opponents. This is an opponent in Sylacauga that's been to the 6A playoffs a bunch of times, 5A playoffs a bunch of times, whenever classification they're in. I think under Coach Matt Griffith, I think in his maybe 15, 16 years, he's only missed the playoffs just a handful of times. Sylacauga, another tough opponent at their place this past week.
Well, we pride ourselves in, playing the best teams around. And, Sylacauga, Coach Griffin and I, we very close friends. And we've been playing each other since I've been the head coach. And, we just look forward to it. Earlier when I started, we sort of had the advantage of them. And the last couple of years, he's gotten the best of us. And, we just like competing. And, you can find out where your team is, by playing tough opponents. And you know what you need to work on. And those are just things that I like about playing tough opponents.
Absolutely. Last year was a tough battle, a one-point game, and then this year another tough battle, back into the single digits. Does it help your team a lot playing a team like that, especially playing them tough, especially down the stretch?
Well, you can only get better because, if you're running the teams that are not as sound and, not as big up front as Sylacauga, you pretty much got an easy road. So, it definitely helps you to play teams that are that tough. And I enjoy it because, it tests the mind of the coaches, your scheming processes. And I just love playing teams like that.
Absolutely. We will kick off our season debut of the Bulldog Blitz with first half highlights against Sylacauga. We'll also break down their Week 2 opponent. All that and more next here on TV 24.
Jamari Fisk.
Come on, get up there! Get up there!
We're back here on the Bulldog Blitz season opener at Sylacauga. Coach, talk about some of the things you saw here in the first half.
Well, in the first half, we started off, the guys were flying to the football. Our defense was pretty solid. I think they may have gotten maybe one first time. You see right here, we pulled the quarterback up. That's Quintavious Nelson, number 8, and we forced him in a 3-and-out. Great little clear out route here to Kevion O'Neal, and he's doing a great job for his first year playing the tight end. Of course, you see Savion Bethune right there. He's throwing the ball pretty well. He's just kind of taking it easy for him. And there again, you see us hitting the tight end again. He made several great catches, and we kind of stalled on that particular drive. And right here you can see the defense. We kind of gave up a little integrity right there, gap integrity. But overall we played pretty well. Of course, you see us stopping the zone read at that particular time. And believe in the first half, we may have held them to maybe 3 or 4 first downs the entire first half. So great job. Right here you see Jamari West, who's going to do great things for us. He's a senior making some great plays right there, great moves. And, of course, we kind of mix it up right here. We kind of work with Savion this year, telling him, when he got in a little bit of traffic right now, being a little cautious, just told him to get out of bounds. And right here we had a big screenplay right here that we ended up getting called back, for leave it out field. But the first half we ended up scoring 0-0. And of course we made a toss here to Jonathan Carlisle. We call him JB. JB made a great run. He ended up rushing for over 100 yards for the game. And right here you see Jaquez Maynard. He's a transfer in from last year. He does a great job, and we sustained the drive that put it together and got the ball in the end zone, and we attacked first. And, we missed the PAT, but we came back out, and just great play right there. If you look at the defense, they flying around. Kind of enjoyed watching them fly around the way they did. Right here you see we forced the fumble. We actually fell on the fumble, and we gave it up. And that's how Silicaga scored the first touchdown. So, I was pretty pleased with the guys. That was the only way that they could score. I was pretty satisfied with the defensive output. And of course, we went right back and started moving football again. And you see at halftime, the score was 7-6.
Absolutely, and you, like you said earlier, you played well defensively. A lot of zone reads and stopping a lot of things early. When it comes to season openers, obviously you have some information based on the previous year, but you really don't know how a team will execute until they got to you. It seemed to me, both offensively and defensively, you found lots of ways to be impressed by the way you guys started out.
Well, Silicaga pretty much has done the same thing for several years. So, again, it was familiar things that they did to us, and we basically, had a game plan for them, and that was the reason behind it, and the guys executed it excellently. They like to run the triple option, and they like to run a wide track, and, we knew what they were going to do, so we had guys in position to make plays.
That was kind of my next question about the adjustments. Obviously, whenever you go into any game, halftime adjustments are key. How different is it in a season opener when you do have a game plan to start out with, some of the things you worked on in practice, and then transferring it to something you might be doing a little bit differently in the third and fourth quarters?
Well, when you do it initially, in the earlier games, it can be a little bit difficult because you're trying to feel guys out. You got guys in new positions. Now, later on in the season, it gets a little bit easier. But this particular game, knowing Silicaga the way they are, they were pretty predictable. So, it wasn't that hard to make the adjustment.
What was their makeup, Silicaga's, as far as height, size? They're usually a pretty big squad overall on the offensive line and the defensive line. You've played some big teams, whether it be teams inside the region or outside the region. What was their makeup physicality-wise?
Well, they were pretty big. Their defensive line, they averaged over 250 pounds, and the offensive line was pretty much similar. They played a couple of guys in the game that didn't play in the spring game that we couldn't account for on film. And, they were a lot bigger than what we thought they were. But everything else as far as the skill positions and speed-wise, we had kind of had a gauge on that. But, they had 2 or 3 guys that didn't play that were a little bit bigger than what we thought they were.
Absolutely. Their only score was the fumble that
right.
went forward and went into the end zone. I would think from a defensive perspective, you can count that as maybe not a fluke, but something that is outside of the norm, and it wasn't necessarily any blown assignments or anything like that. It was, hey, look, guys, essentially we are up 6-0 in this game if it wasn't for this
right.
one play.
Well, we were excited. I mean, outside linebacker came up later, had on the football, and wrapped him up, which we've been working on a lot of tackling, and kid fumbled the football, and Jaden Woods fell on the ball actually, and the ball squirted out, and they had a guy behind him that actually fell on the ball. So I pretty much told the guys at halftime, I said, that's the only way they can score. I'm satisfied. Y'all played a great half, and we just need to keep it up.
Absolutely. Coming up next year on the Bulldog Blitz, we'll have second half highlights. We will also preview the Week 2 football game for the Anniston Bulldogs. Join us right here for more on TV 24.
Place to stop for the Aggies.
second half highlights here on the Bulldog Blitz. Anniston down 7-6 going into the third quarter. Coach, talk about some of the things you saw here in this third quarter.
Well, we came out in the third quarter and we started moving the football, but, you know, it appeared every time we got a big gain or something like that, we would get a penalty and get it called back. And, you know, right here we kind of missed an assignment. They flooded an area. They brought a guy from the backside out in the flats, and, you know, we didn't get a hand on that guy. Philip Carter made an adjustment and started running a wider track on the veer, and, you know, because they knew that we were sending a line back over the top. And so they started running it back through the B gap. And, you know, we had to kind of make an adjustment, but, you know, they ended up scoring on us in the third quarter, basically on that, running that track a little bit tighter than what they typically run it. That particular series, we held them to a field goal on that one. We came back out, and you can see JB running the football there. He's a sophomore, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future. But he rushed for over 100 yards. You can see him here. He's carrying the ball again. Hard runner, you know, hard nose, hard worker. You know, we just kept kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. We would get a big gain, and you know, we would get a holding call or maybe a block in the back or something like that. So that kind of sustained a lot of our drives that we had. You know, the defense still played it great. Right here you see a little pass that probably should have been a 5 and out, but the safety stumbled on that play and the cornerback kind of slipped down. Should have been just maybe a 5-yard gain, and guy ended up scoring on it. So, you know, those are the only 2 scores that they had in the second half. And, you know, once again, you see we were able to move the football whenever we wanted to. They scored twice, 10 points in the third quarter. We came back out and we made adjustments again, and we moved the linebacker track back to the B gap, and we were able to hold them scoreless in the fourth quarter here. You see right here, we threw an interception right there. We had a one-on-one, and that's something we're working on with the quarterback, and that's just development. You know, ball placement on the receivers. Of course, we had a touchdown that was dropped that, you know, would have closed the gap a little bit closer. You know, basically, you know, we just, right there you can see we set the outside off, the linebacker still in the gap, and, you know, we were able to hold them to 3 and out again. You know, made a couple of good plays right here. You see Jamar West again makes a great run, and, you know, we end up getting that play called back. You know, right here we got a big reverse right here. You see Jamar again, he's making great runs. And, you know, just keeping the football moving. We got guys that are moving the football, and of course right here, that's something we got to work on now. Fabian threw it off his back foot, and he basically threw an interception now. So, you know, there's some small things we have to work on.
That's your final score, 17-6, and it seemed to me, going back and watching it, that they scored 3 different times. Once on their own fumble that they recovered in the first half, and then a solid defensive performance, and they kick a field goal, and then the out and up, like you said, that all correctable, seemingly correctable mistakes that you could, number one you can't control as far as like the fumble and then scoring on top of it, but then going back, especially on the defensive side, and slanting in the right ways, and then also getting out and tackling receivers. It just seems to me that these are all things that you can adjust really quickly. Was that something that you saw as well?
Right. So you have all new guys back there. So, you know, the thing is just getting them, kind of letting them see some things on film and getting them adjusted to what they need to do. But that particular pass they scored on probably should have been a 5-yard gain. And we, the safety actually stumbled coming in at his angle, and the cornerback stumbled. So, you know, the receiver got a free lane to the end zone, and that's basically just, you know, just something that happened. It's easy to correct, though.
Absolutely. We always talk maybe some about unsung heroes. We saw guys like Jamari West make a few plays, Savion as well. Was there anybody that kind of stood out Friday night or after you watched it back?
Well, it was several things. The offensive line, for one, you know, we got a new offensive line, and all of them are underclassmen, and they did a fantastic job blocking. If you watch the film, you've seen Savion had plenty of time to throw the football, so I was proud of that. And then, of course, I got a new safety in, Darren Parker. He transferred in from Montfort. Did a fantastic job. He had about 8 or 9 tackles from the free safety position. So he's coming downhill, and then we got got an outside linebacker, Demetrius Brand. We call him Meathead. Meathead played a great game. He had a bum ankle. That's the only injury we had, prior to starting. But he played a great game, and I just think that those guys, once they come on, we're gonna be all right.
Absolutely. Seniors playing key roles was big over these last few years. Guys like Jamari that have played, seemingly since he was a freshman, it seemed like. How big is it for these seniors to get off to a solid start and get something on film where they can get confidence and then move into the next part of the season?
Well, the key is keeping them together and getting the leadership, and that's something that we're getting out of them right now. They were very, very upbeat. They're positive. Even after the game, they came in and, they basically told me, Coach, hey, we got this. We're going to get it. And that's the kind of talk you want to hear. We always talk about expecting to win, and, that's our theme for this year, expect to win. We're going to work hard. We got signs up that say work hard or go home. So we're going to work hard, and we expect to win, And we know we're going to face adversity, and expecting to win doesn't mean you're going to go undefeated.
Right.
But, in the long run, you achieve the goals that you want to achieve because you're working hard.
Absolutely. So week 1 is in the books, and now we transfer into week 2. It's a big week as the Anniston Bulldogs now go into region play. We'll break that down next here on the Bulldog Blitz.
First kick challenge will be in 2 weeks.
Welcome back to the Bulldog Blitz. You take a look at the week 2 game for the Anniston Bulldogs. Coach, you're back on the road against Asheville.
Yes, we got Asheville. Last year we played them, and they came to our place and played a pretty solid game, and, they pretty much did everything they needed to do. And I think we may have taken them a little bit light, and we didn't execute as well as we needed to, and they ended up getting the victory. So, basically we're going in with the frame of mind that we know if we don't play the way we're supposed to play, we'll get beat. And, it's just a mindset. We're trying to change that mindset and just go in and do the things that we need to do.
It's seemingly over the last few years, just by the nature of the schedule, where you start off with some games at home or you start off with some games on the road. This is the year where you start off with 3 games back to back on the road. How does that, if at all, differ from the preparation of playing at home?
It doesn't. I mean, basically, we've had to do that in the past, and in our region, it's just the luck of the draw. Last year I ended up drawing 4 games at home, and so the next season, it flips, and I ended up having to go on the road, and with my Jamboree and my non-region game, it just ended up with me having like 4 games, maybe first 4 games on the road. So, it doesn't, bother us any. It's not a major difference in preparation, but you just got to get your mind right, and then hopefully you have that momentum coming back home, because, you're supposed to win at home.
Absolutely. And this team is over the maybe last few years has played really well on the road.
That's been one of our trademarks, is that we've actually been able to go on the road and do well. We hadn't done as well at home the last couple of years as we should, but the expectations are there. You should win at home. So if you can win all your games at home and 50% of your games on the road, then you're going to do pretty well. And our expectation is to win all the games at home and win 75% of our games on the road, and we'll be fine.
Absolutely. I know as we shoot today, this show, you haven't had a full breakdown of Asheville, but going back to some of the things you've seen in the past, what are some of the things you expect Friday night?
Well, they're a spread team, and they do a lot of things similar to what they did last year. You get in your double set, and basically they count numbers. The philosophy doesn't change. They count numbers, and if they got you outnumbered in the box, they're going to run it, and they feel like if they got an advantage on the edge, they're going to do it. And that comes down to personnel. You can scheme all you want to, but, as one coach told me before, it's not so much about the X and O's, it's those Jimmys and Joes. And once you match those guys up, it comes down to who's going to make a play. And so, you pretty much understand the philosophy, but it's basically about you convincing your guys to make the plays that they need to make.
Absolutely. We've talked over the years about the Anniston football team as far as the classification, kind of teetering back and forth between Class 5A and Class 4A. In the years past, you've been in 5A, and now you're in Class 4A. What are some of the things that you've now seen here in Class 4A Region 5 as you now head into year 2?
Well, actually, the region is as tough as 5A region. You know, you got Sacs and Cherokee County and Alexander and not Alexander, I'm sorry, but Hoax Bluff. You know, those are great teams. And, you know, so dropping down in classification, the region didn't get any easier.
Right.
You know, it actually, the competition is as stiff as it was in 5A. But, you know, you have an opportunity because you're a little bit more familiar with the teams, whereas in 5A, those teams, you know, I wasn't that familiar with them, you know, except for Alexander, maybe the teams that are around here in our area. So, you know, it's a different process as far as understanding and knowing what your opponent, you know, tends to do.
Absolutely. What about the senior class? We'll dive into the leadership of this team. What are some of the things you look for after the week 1 game, whether it's a win or a loss, as you now migrate into week 2? Coaches say all the time that that's when you make your biggest improvement between that first week and that second week.
But what I look for is just the attitude, the positive mindset that our kids have. Last year we had, you know, a lot of issues with as far as, you know, we had to change people around, which was beyond our control. And once you change people around, it's a tendency not to like change. You know, human nature is to resist change. And we had a lot of kids that basically just didn't buy into what we were doing. You know, they were not disrespectful or anything, but it's just hard to get them to buy into what we were doing based on the changes that we had. Well, this group right here, there's no resistance to the change. You know, they understood directly from the beginning. And I explained to them that we were going to face some adversity because, you know, kids tend to point directly to whatever you say, you know, so I want them to understand that that does not mean that we're going to go undefeated, but we have a chance to do some great things if y'all buy into what we're doing, because you're going to face change, you're going to face adversity, you know, and I mean, in a perfect world, you go undefeated, win state championship, but, you know, we in a building process, so, you know, we got to, you know, endure through the race. We got to sustain ourselves and just keep going and just run the race and see what the end will bring.
Absolutely. Ken Logan Stadium, Friday night at 7 o'clock is where Anniston will play the Asheville Bulldogs. We will break it down right here next week on the Bulldog Blitz.